All right, let's get started here. Thank you all for coming. Just a few housekeeping rules. If you wouldn't mind, please mute your phone. We will be taking questions at the end of the presentation, so feel free to add those questions into the chat towards the end at our Q&A session. Okay, so let's get started here. My name is Evan Chapman, and I'm the product designer for Content Depot. And on the phone to help answer questions is John Cyphers, one of our broadcast engineers. Additionally, here in DC with me are a couple members from our product team, Frank Hartman and Joe Jackson. They're here as well to help field questions and answer some questions for you all. This will be one of several deep dives centered around the changes coming to the future system. The next one will be in fall, where we'll be talking more about the ATX and XDS receivers. Kind of on today's agenda, some of today's topics will be we'll be looking at the broadcast services overview. Some of you have kind of already heard some of this information from our Future Systems webinar. Then after that, we'll go to the broadcast services demo and deep dive. Then we'll talk about the future roadmap, and then we'll be taking questions at the end. All right, so first I would like to thank everybody up here on the screen, the TAG and the CDAG group, as well as the beta station participants. We know that extra time is hard to come by, and we really appreciate your help with this Future System project. We assembled this group roughly a year ago, and it consists of subject matter experts in broadcast service operations, or broadcast operations. These individuals also use Content Depot on a day-to-day basis, as well as have a strong knowledge of station automation. The stations in this group were extraordinarily helpful. We met roughly once every 6 weeks on a conference call, emailed back and forth, and had one-on-one sessions to kind of get us where we are today. So if any of you are out there listening, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. So first, let's talk about broadcast services. So what is broadcast services? A broadcast service represents a station's scheduled programming intended for air for their listeners. A station may have multiple broadcast services, such as one with a news and talks format and one with a classical format. In Content Depot, broadcast services are a new way of thinking about how stations subscribe to programs, receive episodes, schedule content for playback, listener consumption. So here is kind of a diagram of what that means. Broadcast services will serve as your broker, your middleman, the person in between your subscriptions and your receiver. So you may have multiple destinations assigned to a broadcast service, and you can move these destinations around as you wish. So there's no need to subscribe and without needing to subscribe and unsubscribe from programming. We'll be taking a look at this in action soon, but broadcast services have been assigned to your IDC receiver ports. Initially, we created these based on your existing receiver ports, so you wouldn't need to subscribe to anything. We just migrated all your subscriptions over to broadcast services. This was a one-to-one mapping, so your IDC receiver 1, port 1 has become your broadcast service 1, your IDC receiver 1, port 2 has become your broadcast service 2, and so on. Then what you will need to do is clean up your broadcast services and assign backup ports. So, with broadcast services, you can have multiple receiver ports and FTP destinations assigned to them. Then additionally, we can also leverage some of the broadcast service information to make station metadata available for new hybrid radio platforms, but we'll talk a little bit more on that later. So again, kind of the benefits and the changes that have been made. So we talked about easy destination management, so you can move things around from receivers and ports just by unassigning and reassigning destinations. The 2-port rule goes away with this, so we know a lot of people are excited about that. It will allow for flexible scheduling whenever we make these automation features available. And then, but to get all of these new enhancements to from broadcast services, we needed to make some changes to your subscription process. So your day-to-day subscription process has changed, but we'll be offering new features in advance of the XDS and ATX receivers to leverage the automation features and functionality within the hardware. So that's kind of the quick overview of what broadcast services is. So now let's dive into the meat of the presentation, and we will take a look at this in action. So now we are logged in here to Content Depot. We'll be using our testing environment as well as a test station, WHAL, for this training. So it may look slightly different between what we see and your station, but essentially everything will remain the same. So we'll go ahead and log in here. Whenever you first log in, you'll be prompted with a modal. You will notice an onboarding modal, which will be welcoming you and introducing you to the new changes that we're about to go over. If you click the Learn More button in the bottom, it'll take you to what we're calling the condensed information page here. So if you get a chance, make sure that you look at this. This kind of touches at a high level of all the things that have changed. In addition, we have our training video that we sent out kind of here at the bottom. So we recommend you all looking at that, and we'll tell you some other ways to get to the page too. As you can see, not a lot has changed as far as the home page is concerned. There are a couple new links in the My Stations tab at the top, which gives you quick access to all your station-related pages. So a couple of the new additions are broadcast schedule and broadcast service. First, we're going to take a look at your. First, I want to take a look at the broadcast services page. There's one of two ways of getting here. You can either get there through the My Stations tab and click Broadcast Services, or you can go to your customer profile and then select Broadcast Services from the submenu. So here we are at the broadcast service page. Now it's time to take a look at your broadcast services. Since you're no longer adding subscriptions directly to your receivers, we have created and migrated your subscriptions to individual broadcast services. Each broadcast service has a name and is linked to an individual receiver and port combination. As you can see in this example, our test station had 2 receivers with active subscriptions on all 4 ports, resulting in Pro Audio 1 Port 1 Legacy Broadcast Service, the Pro Audio 1 Port 2 Legacy Broadcast Service, and so on. So depending on your station's number of receivers, receiver names, and active subscriptions, this may differ for you and your station. So let's talk a little bit about the migration process. The live migration is pretty straightforward. It was, if you were subscribed to a live show on receiver 1 Port 1, that's now on your broadcast service receiver 1 Port 1, which has your receiver 1 Port 1 assigned to it. So there's nothing that you needed to do. It's just setting there on that broadcast service. The file migration was slightly different. Previously, when you would have subscribed to a file show, you would get sent the files would get sent to all of your receivers. In our migration, previously subscribed programs will go to all of these receivers, but new subscriptions will go to the destinations assigned to your broadcast services you've selected. So if you like these files, if you would like for these files to go to multiple receiver destinations, you will either need to clean up your broadcast services and assign multiple destinations to them, or add additional subscriptions. Obviously, we recommend kind of cleaning up your services and making sure that they go to the receivers that you want those files to live on. So now let's take a second at looking at how to edit your broadcast services. So if you click the Edit Broadcast Service button, this little pencil icon here, at the name and description portion of this modal, you can change the name, the medium name, short name, and description. Once you have entered this information, you can click the Links tab, enter in the link, enter in like a related link that deals with this broadcast service. And then now we are here at your destinations page. So as you can see, this broadcast service is assigned to Pro Audio 1 Port 1. And by clicking Pro Audio 3 Port 1, you will now receive all the subscriptions associated with this broadcast service to your receiver 1 Port 1 and your receiver 3 Port 1. So lastly, what we can see here is there's some grayed out options. This indicates that these receiver ports are associated with other broadcast services. So if you wish to assign it to this broadcast service, you'll just need to unassign it from one service and reassign it to this one. When we're all done, just click Save.
And that name could be something like Classical Station, whatever, or News and Talk Station, whatever, or Combo Station, whatever.
Yep. So we recommend you kind of going through and cleaning these up to be more relevant to kind of the information that's on them. So like Mike was mentioning, you could do your News and Talk Station. If it's a breaking news broadcast service, maybe change it to breaking news broadcast service, and things of that nature. So then adding a broadcast service is very similar. Just takes you through this broadcast service wizard. So we can just enter in some information, click next, enter a link if you want, and then assign a destination. You don't need to add destinations, but you can here. So click Save. And so here's our new broadcast service, and all the information all the subscriptions would be going to the Pro Audio 1 Port 2 down here. So these are the basics of your broadcast service. We recommend getting familiar with them and cleaning them up as you go. So one of the things that you can do, like we talked about editing, once you have a good understanding of the automatically generated broadcast services or create additional ones by accident, or something of that nature, you can have the option to delete them. We recommend doing this with extreme caution. Once a broadcast service has been deleted, we will remove your subscriptions from this service and disassociate the destination. So once you delete your broadcast service, this action can't be undone. Since your broadcast services hold your subscription information, this would be the equivalent of removing your all of your subscriptions that were assigned to a receiver in the old system. So just click the trash can to delete something. Type delete here, if I could spell it correctly, and then delete broadcast service. Now let's take a few minutes to review the changes that have been made to the subscription process. We will be reviewing how to subscribe to 3 different program types. We have live with subsequent file or LWSF, and file. Each are very similar with a few minor differences between each. So to get to the new subscription page, you must first navigate to a program. We'll be using new live program. So just type that up in the search bar, click new live program from the search hit list, and then you click subscribe up here in the top right, or modify subscription down here. If you're not subscribed, it'll just say subscribe. So here we are at the broadcast service selection page. This is where you will choose which service you would like to subscribe to. To the left, we have the program information panel that has all the relevant information about this program, including the delivery type, show length, frequency, distributor, and category. And then to the right is a list of your broadcast services. If you're already subscribed to the show on a broadcast service, it will be prioritized to the top, with a blue border at the top of the broadcast block, and then a subscribe text right below your receivers. Each broadcast service has a name and a list of receiver and port combinations assigned to the service. As we mentioned in the broadcast section, the receivers and ports assigned to your broadcast service will be where the content will be sent. Once you figure out which broadcast service you would like this live program to go to, just click that service. After you've selected a broadcast service, you will arrive at the new subscription page. At the top of the page, you'll see the broadcast service you're subscribing this content to, as well as the receiver and port this information is going to. You also have the option to change the service if you'd like. To the right of the service name, you'll see the subscribe all and unsubscribe all options. We'll talk a little bit about that later. And then below is the familiar program information panel, as well as the subscription hours you can subscribe to. In our example, our program has 2 program hours, and our station is currently subscribed to one of those hours. Each program will have a section of information that will tell you a little bit about that hour. The information includes the recurrence of the show, when the transmission will begin, the length of the air window, the file name prefix, kind of all the information that you need to know about that subscription hour to know if you want to subscribe to it or not. And we know that, some people kind of know all this stuff by heart. So if you need to collapse that information to just be able to see all the hours at once, you have that option to collapse it. To add a subscription to this program, all you have to do is click the Add Subscription button at the top right of the program hour you'd like to subscribe to. To keep things easy, we've split our process of subscribing into 2 different flows. The first subscription flow will act just like your previous subscriptions, which we've kind of named this our quick flow option. Just tell us when you'd like to start receiving the content and click the next button to kind of review your subscription. So you have a subscription summary here of all the things that you've subscribed to, and then just click Save. This quick subscription flow, you'll receive all the live content to your assigned receiver based on when the producer makes them available. So we recommend using this process until the ATX receivers are sent out and more advanced scheduling features are made available. In addition to the quick flow example, while it's fast and easy, we know that it doesn't offer the flexibility that we know some stations need. All subscriptions have the option to create a custom scheduled subscription in preparation for the future automation features of the ATX receivers and playout capabilities. We encourage stations to subscribe with accurate playout information. By doing this, you kind of set yourself up for an easy transition when these features are made available. For now, we'll see kind of the custom playout information on your broadcast schedule page, which we will be reviewing later. Delivery for the show to your receiver will remain the same, but you can see kind of when it will actually be sent to your receiver on the live receiver schedule. So let's take a look at the custom schedule. So under the how would you like to subscribe question, just click custom scheduling. You can see here there's a bunch of different recurrence options that you can choose. Change the time that you would like to play it. You can choose this subscription to end after a certain number of occurrences. Change the recurrence pattern for this show to be every day, every week. Maybe you just want to play it, every one time a month or something like that. But for this example, we're just going to opt to not receive this show on Friday. So click Next. You'll be prompted with an episode selection rule. 99% of the time, you'll use this default option, but to make things as flexible as possible, there are additional episode selection rules. The default selection will be what we're using, but there's additional ones like playing the newest episode or you could opt to play, third from the newest. So again, for now, we're just going to use the default option. So click next. And again, we're here at the subscription summary, so just click save here. Your custom scheduled subscription has been added to your subscription hour that you had selected. On your subscription block has information about your subscription, including the delivery preference, recurrence, playout date, and your episode selection rule. You also have the option to for a playout preview for the next 14 days. So this will show you all of the shows that you'll be getting based on this subscription that you created. So it's kind of a double checking your work kind of thing. And then lastly, if you need to, you can create an additional subscription by add additional subscription button here at the bottom. This is if, maybe one recurrence does not match a different one. So maybe you want to play Fridays at, 1 o'clock, but you want Monday through Thursday to be at, noon. So that's kind of the reason for the add additional subscription. To edit a previously created subscription, just click the edit pencil icon on your subscription hour, and you can make these changes here. Similar, you can delete the subscription by just clicking the trash can and click delete subscription. Up here, again, unsubscribe all will unsubscribe you from all the subscription hours, or subscribe all. By clicking it, it will kind of give you the quick flow subscription options we mentioned earlier. So click subscribe all, and we have subscriptions on both hours. Okay. Now let's check out how to subscribe to a file show. First, let's navigate to our test file show, all files considered. Select it from the search hit list. Click modify subscription. And so this next page should feel familiar. It's the same broadcast selection page as your live subscriptions, just with different information. Just select the broadcast service that you would like to subscribe to. So when subscribing to file shows, there is a slight change. Previously, files would have been sent to all your receivers. Now they will be sent to the receivers associated with the broadcast service. So in this example, adding this subscription to Pro Audio 1 Port 1 will send these files to your receivers that are associated with this one. So click broadcast service you'd like to subscribe to. Just like our live show example, you can click add subscription. Now you'll enter in your playout information. So we'll select tomorrow at noon. Entering in your playout information will not affect the delivery of these files for now. The file delivery rules remain the same. You'll receive all files with open air windows the same time as you normally would have received them. For this example, we'll start with, like I said, playing it tomorrow at noon. So click next. Again, this is your episode selection rule. The default is 99% of the time what you're going to choose, but once we need more of that flexibility, it's there. And then your subscription summary, where you can kind of review your playout information. So then just click save. And again, we've landed in a similar page with your subscription assigned here. It shows that you're subscribed, and everything is the same as it is for your live show. So that subscription will now be, all those files will be sent to the receivers associated with this broadcast service. And lastly, let's take a look at the live with subsequent file. So I want to navigate to the LWSF radio hour select it from hit list, select subscribe. Again, similar thing as we've seen before. Broadcast service you'd like to subscribe to, click the add subscription button. So one of the key differences you'll notice with the LWSF subscription process is this beginning step. If you would like to receive the live stream version of a show, you'll need to select the stream, or if you would like to receive the LWSF files, you'll need to click files. If your station would like both of these, you will need to add an additional subscription, which we will be reviewing after this. So for this example, we'll be taking the stream. We'll be doing the quick flow option, so we'll be taking it, live at the time of air, reviewing our subscription summary, and clicking save. And then we're going to go ahead and go back and add grab the files for this LWSF show, put in the playout information similar to like we did for the file shows. So everything is being played at noon. Click next, review your episode selection rules, subscription summary, and then click save. So now we have 2 subscriptions for this LWSF subscription hour. We have, we'll be getting the live stream to the receiver and port combinations assigned to this broadcast service, and we'll be getting the files sent to these receivers associated with this broadcast service. And then the last feature we would like to review with you is your broadcast schedule. There are several ways you can access this page. You can get to it from your home page by clicking the Broadcast Schedule tab. You can get to it from the My Stations tab, or you can go to your broadcast service page and click View Service, Broadcast Service. Now that we're here at the broadcast schedule page, let's take a second to talk about what this page is and what it is not. This page is a visual representation of what you've told Content Depot your playout schedule is. This is not what will be sent to your receiver. This information will still be viewed in your live receiver schedule, which is kind of a link down here, or again, where it was before. So this is just your station schedule as Content Depot sees it. You'll also have the option to hide and show file programs. By default, these files are hidden, but if you click Show File Programs, you'll kind of see why. In the beginning of Content Depot, we didn't really enforce when your playout information was, so a lot of the file shows will kind of just be at that default. So we encourage you to kind of go through each of these files and give us the correct playout information for those programs. So again, that's not going to affect the delivery of those files, but it'll kind of set you up for success whenever we have the ATX receivers, and we can kind of dive into some of these automation features and playout features and things of that nature. And then along with that, let's X out of here, and then you kind of have a legend down here of the shows that kind of show up here. So there's a live show, a delayed show, file show, and then schedule conflict. So again, not the same thing as schedule conflict on live receiver schedule, but it'll help you out. So that kind of concludes the demo portion. We're going to talk just briefly. We're going to talk briefly about the kind of our future roadmap, and then after that, we'll do a Q&A. So if you give me 1 second here. So here are a few of the exciting features that we'll be working on. At the top, we have prioritization, which is an exciting capability of the new, ATX receivers, and it'll allow stations to overlay content on broadcast services. to kind of get rid of conflicts and help reduce the number of ports being used. So, for example, you could have Morning Edition. You can have a Morning Edition subscription and overlay your newscast on top of that, and then go back to Morning Edition. All of that in the same broadcast service, which has a receiver assigned to it. Ultimately, this will save you port space with the new receivers. And then following with that, some of the automation capabilities of the new receivers is delayed playback. So you can record live, you could record live programming and schedule it to be played out later at a later date and time. Then again, with file scheduling, you can schedule file content on your broadcast services to be played out of your receiver. And then lastly, Project Logo and Hybrid Radio. Once these receivers are shipped and stations begin to clean up their broadcast services, we can start to offer static metadata on hybrid radio platforms, including call letters, descriptions, logos, and all of that kind of hosted by Content Depot. So that's an exciting new thing to come. So this completes the presentation and demo portion of the webinar. We'll now be taking questions. So if you all could, I know there's a lot of people kind of in the webinar. So if you could put your questions in the chat, we'll begin to answer some of them.
Looks like quite a few.
Yeah.
Mike Palone's actually been fielding a lot of them.
Oh, has he?
Yep.
Okay. So if Joe, if you could get me one to start out here.
Scroll through here and find one Mike has an RE address.
Thank you, Mike. If you can hear me, I appreciate it.
One that I have not seen addressed yet is, where did it go? It's referring, setting things to local time zones. Is there a way to set the air windows to their respective time zones?
Yeah. So as far as time zones are concerned, that's something that we kind of have in mind, and we know that that's something that stations want. Currently, it's the same time zone rules as what we have now. So it is DC time zone, but that is something that we're kind of looking into.
Just catching up with stuff here.
So Ray asked, I noticed there's an FTP option for file delivery. Can I set a file to be sent to an FTP server at the station instead of the receiver? Yeah. So that's one of the additional things that's kind of exciting is, so with these broadcast services, you can assign any combination of destinations. So FTP could be one of those. So if you have an FTP server or an FTP destination set up, you can just assign that to a broadcast service and subscribe to that broadcast service, and then those files will get sent to your FTP location that you've kind of set up in Content Depot. Let's see here. So Richard asked, we ingest files into Enco. How will that work with sending files to separate receivers? I think I don't know if Mike answered.
Not that one.
Okay. Yeah. So Richard, yes. So right now, your previously migrated file shows will be sent to all of your receivers, so you shouldn't see any issues with your receiver automations on previously subscribed programs. One thing to kind of keep in mind with the changes of the broadcast services is now with our migration, so it being a one-to-one mapping, the broadcast service that you subscribe to your file shows, it'll be sent to that receiver associated with that broadcast service. So if you have some sort of mechanism like looking at your Enco boxes, or looking at your Enco, and it's looking at one and you subscribe it to the other, you want to make sure that either you have multiple destinations assigned to that broadcast service, or you need to create additional subscriptions in the time being. So they'll still be sent. File subscriptions will be sent to the receiver associated with the broadcast service that you subscribe to. I hope that answered your question. Oh, there we go. This is much easier. Let's see here.
Richard, so John Pearl.
Okay. Why do I see, it keeps jumping to the bottom. It's so annoying.
More people are putting something in, maybe.
Yeah. Let's see, where were we here? Okay, why do I see many occurrences of the file program on the broadcast schedule? Many occurrences of file program on the broadcast schedule. I may follow up with you with that question. I'm not quite sure that I understand what you're asking there. What Richard was asking was the same question, so I think I answered that. Is that FTP? Is that FTP scheduled download active now? Yeah. So if you assign TJ, so if you assign a FTP destination to a broadcast service and you subscribe to a file show, it will be sent to that destination. And then the same if you're downloading files on Content Depot and sending them to that, none of that has changed. I see more port subscriptions than I used to have. Do I need to unsubscribe from the Pro Audio ports that I'm not using? See more port subscriptions. Is there a way to does not jump so much?
Yeah, sorry everyone. The chat's actually jumping with every new thing, and it's taking it out of the view pane. Do you want me to read the one?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
So Dan Davis asks, I see more port subscriptions than I used to have. Do I need to unsubscribe from audio ports that I'm not using?
From the Pro Audio ports that you're not using. So if you have, so we've created all of these with the migration. We've created all these broadcast services for you. So if there are broadcast services, or if there are destinations that you don't necessarily are sending anything to, and you just kind of want to clean that up, that would be fine. So if there's, let's say that you're not sending anything to your Pro Audio 2 port 3, and you could just delete that broadcast service just to kind of clean up those ones that were kind of created for you. So if there's some of that kind of situation, that would be good to do. It'll kind of clean things up and kind of help you in the future.
Mike recommends might be good to show an example of merging two broadcast services when you want primary and a backup receiver.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So let's I can kind of show you how that's done. real quick here. So in the example where you have, so in the example where you have all of the same, let's say that your Pro Audio 1 port 1, your Pro Audio 1 port 1 and your Pro Audio 2 port 1, let's say that those are exact identical, and so your Pro Audio 2 is kind of your backup. So let's say that you want to, get everything from one to the other. So in this example, the broadcast service right here, Pro Audio 1, port 1, and port 2 legacy is all of that information, all of the subscriptions are going to this receiver and port. So if you click edit, you can add additional destinations. So in the example where your Pro Audio 1 port 1 and your Pro Audio 2 port 1 should be identical, you can unassign Pro Audio 2 port 1 destination and then reassign it to to that service. So that kind of merges the two together. So you'll get all of the same subscription information to both of those destinations. Oh, sorry, my laptop is dying, so I am plugging it in here. So hopefully that kind of clears it up a little bit. So if there's backup content that's going to from one to the other, just cleaning them up in here is the best way forward.
Jeff Carlton. I was subscribed to alternative radio, and on the import it had 52 subscriptions on each of our 4 receivers. To unsubscribe, I had to delete each individually. There was no unsubscribe all function that I could see. Is this a bug?
I assume that was a file show that he said.
Alternative radio on import. I'm not sure.
If it was a file show, the subscribe all and unsubscribe all is only for live shows. So if it was a file show, then no. But I will follow up with you on that one. That seems kind of strange to me. So I'll look into that.
Okay.
And again, any of the questions that are kind of showing up in the in our chat, if you guys have your name and we can kind of figure out who you are, we'll follow up with answers. I know it's kind of tough in this forum here, but with as many people who are on the webinar, people talking over each other might be kind of tough.
Something. John Campbell asks why he sees 42 listings of alt.latino in his service schedule.
Alt.latino. I will, again, I'll look. It's in the, did you say broadcast schedule?
Service schedule.
Yeah. If there are, again, that's kind of the cleaning up of your files in that. So in the old way of subscribing, we didn't enforce kind of your actual playout schedule. So if I'm guessing that there's probably a lot of active episodes, so they're all showing up kind of in the same realm and in the same time. So if you were to go in there and put in kind of the recurrence of whenever you were to actually be playing them out, they would spread out across your broadcast schedule and be in the appropriate places. So I don't quite know exactly what like the recurrence of that show is, but let's say that it's a Monday through Friday file show. If you were to go to the program and change your recurrence of that subscription, it should kind of clean that up for you, but you'll still get the files in the same manner as you do now, but it'll clean up that schedule a little bit.
everyone. Hopefully, we're not picking up questions that Mike's already answered. We're kind of stuck in the middle of the chat and we can't look down without it losing our place. Stuart asks, do I have to resubscribe to the current programs on all of my streams, or will they transition automatically?
So with the migrations that we've already done, everything is already there. So anything you were subscribed to before, you know, whenever we made this live on Monday, you're still subscribed to. So it's just kind of a matter of small minor changes whenever you go to either alter an existing subscription or added an additional subscription. So anything that was there before will be there now. So.
Seeing if this one was already answered. One moment. Is there a way to continue to have all files sent to all receivers?
I think the best way to go about that is to add the additional subscriptions or add additional destinations to the broadcast service that you're assigning it to. So if you wanted to go to receiver 1 or receiver 2, you know, while the ports matter for live shows, the ports really don't matter for file shows, right? Because it's just getting sent to the receiver. So so really just for the two receivers, it's really just 2 subscriptions, or it's just 1 subscription if you have 2 destinations assigned to that broadcast service. So it's kind of a matter of preference on how you want to do it. We recommend, if it doesn't screw up your live shows, to add an additional destination to your broadcast service. But if it kind of messes with that, then you can do 2 additional subscriptions. But again, we're working our way through kind of figuring out the best process for you now. But as of now, those are the 2 options that are the best.
Jeff asks, is it correct to say that each receiver has 4 broadcast services, i.e. 4 ports, or am I mistaken?
Yes, currently that is true. Now, again, like we mentioned, you can clean out these broadcast services by, you know, if your Pro Audio, if your one receiver is a direct backup from your other, then you would really only have 4 broadcast services. But with the migration from, you know, the way that we used to subscribe to now, there was not a way to reduce those down and not have conflicts. As of now, that's correct, but we recommend kind of cleaning those up.
Hey, Evan, it's John. Hey, John. I just wanted to mention something that might help with some confusion. If can you on your screen cancel out of this modal, and then I think what everyone should notice is that your broadcast services are temporarily called what your legacy ports were, but ideally your broadcast services should be called WHAL HD1, WHAL HD2, breaking news channel. And so once you do that, I think it removes a lot of confusion as far as you're assigning a show to a broadcast service, where right now, if you leave these names as they are, when you subscribe a show, say a file show, it looks like you're subscribing a file show to Pro Audio Port 2, but really you're subscribing it to the broadcast service that happens to have that name. Does that make sense, or am I adding confusion?
Yeah, no, that's a good point, John. Yeah, I think that's exactly what kind of we're getting at, is the cleaning it up is kind of the way of making it more helpful for you. But we had to make a guess on what's the best what was the best at the time to create these names, and this was just kind of the names that we came up with.
Right.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we want to get to, because again, all of these receivers and all of the content going to these have kind of a theme, like you said, the breaking news channel, your news and talk channel, and things like that.
Yeah, and then at that point, it makes a lot of sense when you subscribe a file show and it's going to a broadcast service, which is then feeding both of your receivers. Then that file makes its way to both receivers, and your automation system continues to operate as normal. I saw a lot of questions in the chat about that, so I thought I'd speak up. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, and no, thank you. And if you have any other tidbits that you'd like to add, feel free.
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay. Joe's.
Rich says they jumped in late. Is there a flow chart that illustrates the process / workflow?
Yeah. So I don't know if this is necessarily what kind of what you're getting at, but we kind of talked about what broadcast services was and kind of what it means. So this I close this down. So this image here kind of represents what your broadcast service is. So to the left is your subscriptions. They are associated with your broadcast service, and then your broadcast service has destinations assigned to it. So your broadcast service is your middleman, or the person in between your subscriptions and where those subscriptions go. So this is kind of the workflowy. Hopefully this kind of helps you understand kind of what we've been talking about. So it's your middleman, your broker, the person in between your subscriptions and the destinations that they're going to. So hopefully that's helpful. We're going to the chat here, grabbing another question. And thank you, Mike, for answering some of the stuff kind of within the chat. Hopefully, you all are kind of following along with that as well.
Larry asks, we showed 13 subscriptions to TechNation on their broadcast schedule. When they go to modify, can they delete 12 of those without canceling the subscription?
Let me follow up with you. Let me follow up with you on that one. There's a bunch of shows in Content Depot, so I want to make sure that it is, like if it's a file show or if it's an LWSF, or kind of what the subscription type is before I have you deleting things. But if it's a file show, and like previously, like I mentioned before, if it's if it's just a matter of cleaning up the recurrence pattern of the files, that might be kind of what you do. But again, I'll follow up with you with that, with a more concrete answer. Can I have another question here?
Yeah, sorry, we keep preparing to do one, and then I see a little bit down. Mike already handled it, so we don't want to recover the same ground too much. Mike asks, so we will subscribe to legacy receivers the current way, and you want us to clean up or set up the broadcast services, which won't impact our schedule?
So think of your schedules and your subscriptions are the broadcast services. So whenever you start cleaning these up, just kind of be aware that, you don't, if you have, morning edition that's coming into your receiver 1 port 1 that's assigned to your broadcast service 1, you kind of want to do that at a time where there's not a lot of traffic on that broadcast service. So cleaning them up, just be a little careful, but that's what we want to do. We want it'll be helpful for you all to kind of clean those up. And I think after you kind of get more familiar with the subscription process, hopefully that makes more sense. And I'll follow up with you again on that question as well.
Dan asked when he's looking at the subscription page and he clicks to to look at his details, and then he hits the back button. It takes him back to the main show information page instead of back to the subscriptions page it was previously on. We're actually working on just going back to that page now. So
yeah, that'll actually be in the next release. We noticed that as a part of our final testing. So yeah, any of those user flow pieces of feedback or any of those, like, it would be better if we did something this way or that way. Well, we're always open for suggestions and ideas, and you know, with the CDEG group and some of these other people, we've done some user testing and some user interviews and things like that. So if you want to sign up for any of those to give us your feedback, we'd be open to hear anything, because again, this is a product for stations and producers, so we want to make it as intuitive as possible. So if there's things that you see amiss, we like hearing that type of feedback. So that particular thing is being fixed as a part of this next release. Can we reduce confusion by creating a service called file delivery and sends to both receivers? Yeah, I mean, if that's helpful to the station or to your station, then absolutely. So if let's say that you don't have any live programs coming into one of either of your ports.
I think they're asking for an example.
Oh.
Also, can you expand it a little? Someone mentioned that it was too small to see very well.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Exit out of slideshow. So kind of following up on that question. So let's go to a file show, all files considered. And we're subscribing to this file delivery broadcast service. It's going to be sent to your Pro Audio 1 and your Pro Audio 3. So if you want it sent to all three receivers, or if you have three receivers, you'll just need to assign the destination to that broadcast service. So hopefully that answers your question.
So one thing they could do in theory, if they want to use their second receiver in the traditional way, like the backup, they could have the port on Pro Audio 1 called file delivery, and the one on IRD2 or the receiver 2 port 1 could say file delivery backup or something like that.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Again, we've kind of kept these chat questions. So if any of these didn't get answered, we'll make sure that we follow up with you all on them. So kind of in conclusion, if you have any questions or concerns or additional feedback, feel free to call the help desk at 800-971-7677. You can email us at prsshelp@npr.org. And then there's additional resource links and an FAQ for the future system, and that's at prss.org/future system. And then in previous communications, we sent out a training video, and then you can get to that training video via Content Depot as well, and it kind of goes through kind of what we did live here in a little bit more condensed format. So if there's something you missed or if you came in late, we highly recommend taking a look at that, and we'll be sending that out, again. And so make sure you kind of look out for that. Yeah, so thank you all so much. Hopefully this was helpful. If we didn't get to your question, I'm sorry, and we will follow up with as many of you all that we did question and answer as possible. So thank you all so much, and have a great, what day is today? Wednesday. My goodness. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Happy help.